The first part of this course dealt with creating the environment for learning. What are the best conditions for a classroom setting, which will support and enhance the instruction that takes place? Setting objectives and providing feedback, reinforcing effort and providing recognition, and cooperative learning are all elements which have been shown through research to have a significantly positive effect on student achievement. So now we're going to look at the second of the three major areas for effective education, developing understanding. This whole area deals with what we can call the initial acquisition of learning. When students are learning new material or are building on their learning, what are the strategies which are most effective in helping them truly learn that material? Based on many research studies, four main strategies have been identified: using cues, questions, and advanced organizers, using non-linguistic representations of the content, helping the students summarize and take notes, and a proper use of homework and practice. So let's start today by talking about cues, questions, and advanced organizers. So first, what are we talking about with these? Cues are hints to the students about the content of the upcoming lesson. Questions, this is obvious, but we need to clarify. We're talking here about actual questions to which you want an answer, not just rhetorical questions. And these are questions you ask as a way to introduce new content. So we're not talking about the whole topic of asking questions in general, but how you introduce new content. Finally, advanced organizers are outlines or diagrams which provide a structure for new learning by showing relationships and relative importance. Let's look at this in more detail. Cues are things you say to let the students know what they're going to be learning about. It might be obvious, like, today we're going to learn how to prove the Pythagorean theorem. This gets the students mentally prepared for what the lesson will be about, so they'll already be thinking in the right direction. Or it might be a bit subtle, such as introducing a lesson of the Pythagorean theorem by saying, yesterday we learned about the parts of a right triangle. Remember that the two sides connecting to the right angle are called legs, and the side opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. Here, you're causing the students to bring back into their working memory the content from the previous day, content which they're going to use in the lesson today. And that's important for learning to take place. Brain research tells us that mentally, we learn best when we connect what we're learning to something we already know. When you use these cues, you are causing students to bring their previous knowledge into their memory where it can be built on and connected with. So those are cues. What about questions? The questions we're talking about here are those used to introduce a lesson. Sometimes it is to remind students of previously learned information, which we're going to build on in the new lesson. From our previous example, we might ask the students, what are the names of the sides of a right triangle? Sometimes the questions we ask are intended to stimulate curiosity in the students. How can we measure the height of a tree without using a tape measure or some other direct measurement? The teacher could take ideas and then move into a lesson on using the concept of similar triangles or using the tangent of an angle. While we're not going into a complete lesson here on questions, we have to keep in mind that asking questions, good questions that is, can be one of the most effective strategies a teacher can use. In the book we're studying, there's a quotation at the beginning of this chapter. Questions that stretch students' minds, invite curiosity, provoke thinking, and instill a sense of wonder can keep students engaged. But one key is that good questions generally need to be planned in advance so they're effective. Most teachers can't come up with an insightful question which will challenge all students to think about the material in the right way, leading to the proper lesson objective. They generally can't do that on the fly. Think ahead about the questions you're going to ask. Now let's look at advanced organizers. These are often graphical in nature, but not necessarily. With our Pythagorean theorem example, we might have students draw a right triangle and label the parts before we start the lesson on the theorem. Or an advanced organizer might be an outline of the parts of the Old Testament, Pentateuch, history, wisdom, prophets, in preparation for a more detailed study of the prophets. The idea is that we want to emphasize important information, show relationships in the material to be studied, and relate it to prior knowledge. There are basically 4 formats of advanced organizers. First are expository advanced organizers. These describe or explain in written or verbal format what the upcoming content is and what the important content is. This could be as simple as a printed outline of the unit which summarizes the main points. Or it could even take the form of a pre-quiz to introduce the content, where you ask several basic questions to see what the students already know and to get them thinking about the upcoming lessons. For example, before watching a video on nutrition, have students answer these true-false questions under the Me column. Then after they watch the video, have them go back and answer them under the Video column. Narrative advanced organizers use a story format to engage student interest and to show them why the information is important. For example, when I taught geometry and we studied trapezoids, I told the students about how my son, a hockey fan, explained to me about the rules regarding the trapezoid behind each goal. Or you could read a short story about the time period you're getting ready to study in history. The idea is that you're getting the students thinking in the framework of what you're going to study. Another possibility for a narrative advanced organizer might be to use a YouTube video which gives a brief introduction to the topic, or which presents an example which leads into your topic of study. You can also use skimming as an advanced organizer. When you start a unit or chapter, take a few minutes to have the students glance over the chapter in the textbook and summarize some key points, subheadings, significant diagrams, how the chapter is organized, and so on. Finally, there are graphic advanced organizers. These are similar to graphic organizers used during the lesson, but these are used prior to the start of the lesson. You want to help the students visually organize what they already know about the material and give them some visual cues about what they're going to learn. For example, say you're studying music history and you're going to learn about Johann Sebastian Bach. You might have students fill out a chart like this to review the periods in music history. Then move into showing where Bach fits into this, into the Baroque, and continue on then with your study of Bach. This helps the students visualize the time periods being studied. Now here are some things to keep in mind. Don't be too subtle about all this. You want the students to be clear about what they're going to be learning. So whether you use cues, questions, or advanced organizers, make sure you end up with the students realizing what they're about to study. And keep in mind that typically, the more students know about a topic, the more they will be interested in that topic, and the more they will want to learn. So the more you can help them recall what they have learned previously, the more likely it will be that they will get engaged with the new learning. So give these a try as ways to introduce new material. In the next session, we're going to talk about non-linguistic representations of content.